So today we're talking about NDI cameras. NDI is a protocol that was introduced by NewTek in 2015. So it's 9 years old. You can go to ndi.tv, all kinds of resources there. I have several videos on the StreamTech channel about NDI that you can get started with. But today we're just going to be talking and introducing you to the concept of an NDI camera. And what that means is a camera, wireless or wired, that is connected to your switching device over your local area network. Standard Ethernet TCP/IP networking. Meaning, in some cases, you can add cameras over the network without having to change anything about your infrastructure. There are some caveats. We'll get to that. I did an article for Streaming Media several years ago called All In on NDI, and this is 4 years ago. And NDI is just getting better. The Duet is included in those things that do switch, as well as bigger things like a TriCaster. I don't have a TriCaster out here either, but I do have a show about the TriCaster. And we're not going to be talking about Blackmagic because Blackmagic absolutely refuses to do NDI. If I connect a YOLOBOX to a Wi-Fi router using an Ethernet and connect 3 tail airs to the Wi-Fi wirelessly, can I PTZ control the tail air cameras with the YOLOBOX? The YOLOBOX has an interesting way of getting you to control the PTZ. We'll get there. This is the magic of a live show with a real human. We're going to turn this on. I have set up a router. Now, certain routers are made for consumer use. Certain routers are made for industrial use. But even the ones that are pro and kind of industrial are not made for streaming multiple cameras where every single bit is just constantly going. A lot of them are like, juggling many things at once. I went and I got that beast of a router. It's the ROG AX6000. Again, I purchased it with my own money. They are not paying for placement. I'm giving it a shot, and it's supposed to have an insane amount of bandwidth, which means the processing power to shove bits around in real time, I'm hoping, is really good. Netgear has a series of NDI certified switches that are designed to understand and properly handle NDI and make sure that all the bits just flow smoothly. Meaning, because if you have multiple cameras, each camera is having a little amount of data, and all these camera data streams don't stop. It's like floodwater, and then another floodwater, and then another floodwater. All these floodwaters have to pass in one port, out the other port, in the antennas, out through the port. And if you don't have if the thing is not designed to handle on the back plane a ton of data nonstop without any interrupts and checking and all this stuff, without stopping, even for an instant, if it's not designed to do that, you're going to see glitches in your NDI. So the router really makes a difference. I'm not endorsing this router. I'm actually testing it with today's show. So we'll see. Mainly, let's just say you're better with a wire if possible. And OBSBot makes wired adapters. And you can only use OBSBot wired adapters on the OBSBot cameras. They will not talk to if you use a third-party router. And I have a video. I keep saying that. I have a video on this little Google adapter that takes Ethernet in, your standard unpowered Ethernet in, and provides it over USB-C. I had hoped it would work into the USB-C of the OBSBot, but it does not. However, it does work in the USB of the Mevo Start cameras, meaning I can put these on wired Ethernet and power them at the same time with one wire going into the back of the camera. So this is I think it was $20. Again, there's a video on the StreamTech website specifically about this Google adapter. Fortunately, they do make a wired adapter. Unfortunately, it's about 4 times the cost of the Google adapter. But they both take Ethernet and convert it to USB-C. This one, however, will take power over Ethernet as well. So you're still only running one powered Ethernet cable. I should probably explain that a bit. Powered Ethernet cable, and then this will provide both the power and the data to the USB-C port that goes into the OBSBot camera. Ethernet is networking. I have an Ethernet cable right here, and typically this carries data. That's it. In a standard TCP/IP networking protocol, this will carry data. You plug it into a device and that's it. They have adapted that so that this can also carry power at the same time. So if you had a pan tilt zoom camera like this PTZ Optics, this is the Move 4K. I'm only going to plug this in. I plug this into the Ethernet port, and then within a couple seconds, it communicates that, hey, you got power? I'll take some of that power. And the Ethernet router provides the power to run the camera over the one cable. So this is now on. This is ready to be used. And I didn't plug in a separate power cable. So power over Ethernet. And there's different levels of power over Ethernet depending upon how hungry a source is and how far it is. Because these thin little wires, as you go a distance, the voltage drops. And then depending upon how much the drop is, if you want 12 volts here, you have to be sending 24 or something, depending upon the distance or more. So if it's really, really far away, you need to send a higher voltage so that by the time it gets there, it's delivering what the device needs. So that's a little, very brief description of power over Ethernet. The OBSBot Talent here is plugged into Ethernet. And I also have an Ultra. This is the Ultra. The Ultra is plugged into Ethernet. They're both plugged into this router. This, however, is not plugged into the router. This is not plugged into this router. And we're going to add those wirelessly. And the router is taking that wireless signal, bringing it in, and putting it out on the network. So my wired network is coming in at 300 megabits, my wireless network, and it actually breaks them up. I have it broken up into two different networks. So there's my 2 gigahertz and there's my 5 gigahertz. Now, I am going to add, let's go over to the Ultra, and that's my HDMI camera. Hello, camera. We're going to add NDI, and NDI on this Ultra is activated. NDI comes with a cost. It has to be licensed from, I would say, the NDI organization. However, it's not been broken into a separate organization. NDI is still fully owned by NewTek, which is now owned by Vizert. So they charge licensing, and every company that wants to use NDI has to pay them to be able to use it. So if you want to use NDI on your YOLOBOX, you have to pay $99 because they have to pay $99 to NDI. If you want to use it on the Director Mini, however, the Director Mini and the OBSBot Talent included. So they've rolled the price of the NDI into here. The same with the OC Duet. It has that one NDI receiving license, and it's already activated. You don't have to pay extra for it. If you have a Mevo Start, NDI is included. If you purchase an OBSBot Go, you have to add it because not everybody wants to do NDI. They may purchase these to work with the multi-camera app, which doesn't use NDI, and they want to record and stream directly from the camera. So there's a whole bunch of people who don't need NDI and they don't want to have to pay extra for it. So it's not included. But each NDI license costs money. And when somebody's charging you for NDI, it's because they have to pay the piper. Bird Dog does not charge for NDI because it's rolled into the price of the camera. However, if you were purchasing a Sony camera, PTZ camera or a Panasonic PTZ camera or a Canon PTZ camera or a Marshall PTZ camera, you're going to be paying hundreds of dollars, upwards of $399 to $499 for the license to turn on NDI in that camera. So when somebody freaks out about, it's like, I have to pay $99 to turn on NDI in my YOLOBOX. Yeah, you do. And be glad it's $99 and not $399 like it is in one camera. It says it sees my bird dog and my other bird dog. It doesn't see this one. I'm going to go back to the Ultra. It still only sees these. Come back out. Go back in. Now it's going to search again. So oftentimes NDI does not automatically refresh over and over and over again. So you will need to back out and then come back in. And you saw how the YOLOBOX went through the network, all through the different numbers, and asked, are you NDI? And there it is. Now it appeared. So there is the tail air. We're going to click on that. Done. And there is my camera. If I bring this camera up, you'll see that this camera is indeed live. I tilt it sideways. Okay, that camera is live. Now, in the YOLOBOX, if you want to PTZ it, you see the PTZ control. You come in here, and it asks for the IP address. I don't know why it does this. Because it already found it on the network. So you need to find the address of the camera on the network and type it in here so that you can do the PTZ control. They need to fix this. They really do need to fix this. So that's what you need to do. If you are, again, new to NDI, one of the very cool things about NDI is it's not exclusive. It's not a cable. I mean, it is a cable, could be a cable. It's not like an HDMI cable connected from here to here. It's not like an SDI cable from here to here. You're putting it on the network. So it's like a web page. Everybody can access the web page, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over to the talent, and I'm going to add an NDI stream, do an NDI search. There it is. There's the tail air. There's my camera. Save. Call up the camera. There it is. Here's my camera. It's live, and I'm tilting it. But here's the really interesting thing. You can't see it, but it's actually happening on both devices. So if I go to the Ultra while I'm twisting this, there's the Ultra. It's live. Here's the talent. It's live. It's live to both, and it's connected to nothing. That's the magic of NDI. You're putting it on the network so that multiple devices can reach out and touch that. Now, BirdDog has a NDI controller. You can connect to your cameras via NDI and control them while the video is going to the other device. But it's all happening over NDI. But you're splitting the protocol. Since multiple devices can reach out and touch that camera, one is telling it what to do, the other one is receiving the video. That's pretty cool. And then, as you can see in the talent, if I come up here and I say, give me control, I just tap it. It's there. And then I can move it. No. There we go. It is touchy. I'm not going to, you see how it always kind of darts to the right a little bit before taking my movement? But this is an example of like, okay, I can say store, that's position 1. And then I can swing it around and tilt it up. I want to go up, go over there, do some focus maybe. That'd be good. There you go. Store as 2, and then go back to 1, zoop, and go back to 2, zoop. And that right there is one of the key features of NDI that makes it so cool, that you can take these cameras, plop them anywhere, and be able to say, go to 1, go to 2, and it's repeatable. Go to 1, go to 2. I mean, that is so cool, to me, at least, already. So let me, NDI stream, open, and I've got the bird dog over there. I'm going to think that's HDMI, so that's HX2. There we go. I don't know why it's blue. It's seeing something that wants to keep pushing it in the wrong direction. I don't know what it's seeing that's making it go blue, but clearly. So now I just want to bring this up so that I've got the BirdDog X1 over Wi-Fi connected, and I'm going to go into my PTZ control. Now you see this interface over here is very different. I've got 9 presets, whereas the little OBSBot can only do 3. I mean, supposedly it might do more, but in that interface, it's only giving you 3. This one has 9, and the interface is a little different. And as I figured out just the other day, I can move it around. So if I needed to be over here to be out of my way, that's good. If I needed to be over here to be out of my way, I could put it back over there, which is really cool. But it's 2 different PTZ interfaces in the same device, depending upon whether you're controlling an OBSBot device on the OBSBot Talent or whether you're controlling something else. Now, if we go over to my PC, look at that. Now, all of a sudden, my usage has gone up a lot, my wireless usage, because I accepted the video feed from the big BirdDog camera. That is one thing that I talk about in the NDI videos, is you have to start thinking about your bit budget, because these cameras are all using HX, but not every device uses HX. I have an older device over here. I have a BirdDog Flex converter, and it's on top of my little camcorder, and it's got the tally going, and it's taking the HDMI out, and the HDMI goes in. This has gone green because it now has an HDMI source. When I go to my talent and I say cancel, come over here, NDI stream, NDI search, the HDMI. At the bottom it says unsupported NDI format. Save. So that is not going to give me a picture. If we go to the PC, that graph has changed. Why? Because over the wired network now, there is a big stream of data coming from that full NDI source. Even if the talent can't see it, it's still being received. That's how it lets you know that that format was not supported, because it's coming in. It's big. It's 4 times larger than everything else we had on the network. And you can see now all of a sudden I'm doing 21 megabytes a second. 21 times 8, 2 to 16. So that's nearly 200 megabits being passed around from one device. Now, let's make it really interesting. You can see on the talent, the BirdDog HDMI has no signal. It does, but the talent doesn't understand full NDI. And that's kind of an issue with NDI. I'm just going to be upfront. It is kind of an issue with NDI. There's 4 flavors of NDI, and even within those, there's some variables. There's full NDI, which is 100 megabits or more for just HD. And if you're doing 4K, it's going to be 350 or so megabits for one stream. Now remember, if you have a gigabit router, 3 4K cameras is going to be saturating that switch, and you're not going to get anything through there. It's even going to be dropping those frames. If you're doing HD at 100 megabits, which is what this one is doing, if you're doing HD at 100 megabits, then you are going to be hard-pressed to get at maybe as many sources as you want on there. And remember, if I come over here to my Ultra, and I say add a video source, NDI, let's look on the network. And there's my BirdDog HDMI. I'm going to select that on my Ultra. Done. The Ultra has no problem decoding full NDI. So now that full NDI is going from that one encoder to 2 places. And if you look at the network, you see that reflected there too. One encoder, two places, twice the bandwidth. And that is something you're going to have to, like, when the things start adding up, now all of a sudden I'm at 37.89, basically 40 megabytes per second times 8. 4 times 8 is 32. So I'm at 320 megabits a second on a gigabit router. There is no drop frames with this. There's nothing. Because the router's capable of taking that thing, sending it to two places. Well, this is actually sending two streams, but it's able to take that data coming in from that one device, send it out to two receiving devices, and there's not an issue with that. In fact, it's doing that one, and it's doing the OBSBot over here, OBSBot, JVC. It's doing both of those without an issue. The Flex 4K in, because the battery died. And because it was already connected, it should automatically just repopulate over there. There it goes. Just no problem. And it's still encoding. It doesn't care. You will see that loss of data is properly reflected. When that camera died, the BirdDog encoder was not encoding either stream. Whoomp! Data rate went way down. Now that I've got it back up, whoomp, the data rate goes right back up. And remember, the talent is part of that problem. If I come over here to the talent and I say, you know what, delete this, what do you think you're going to see over there? You're going to see the data rate drop in half. Admittedly, this goes a little slower than I would like for demonstration purposes, but it's getting to the point. And that's something you're going to need to consider when you're adding cameras. What type of NDI is it? You have full NDI at 100 megabits. You've got NDI HX1, which was the first codec that NewTek released to get it able to be wireless. The data rate is a little flexible in there. It's kind of adjustable between, like, you know, good and better and stuff like that, but it's not really supported. So if you find something that's HX1, I would just sort of not use it, because it's trying to be like orphaned and moved away. Hang on, that was Instagram. Then there's HX2, which is what the Mevo Start uses. And then there's HX3, the latest version of it. HX2 is an H.264, like on the Mevo Start. I can do 15 megabits or 5 megabits at 1080p. And that's not a lot. That gives you a decent image at not that bad of a data rate. HX3 enables you to really dig in there and set some parameters. And HX3 lets you use H.265, which is more efficient. Now, H.265 is going to put more of a workload on the decoding device. So if you're trying to connect a bunch of H.265 sources to a computer or a device like this, you're going to be asking more of the processor than if you're trying to decode H.264. So keep that in mind too. But it gives you a better picture at the same bit rate, or it gives you the same picture at a lower bit rate than H.264. So HX3 is a nice advance. And the BirdDog cameras, let's see if I can bring that back up over here. The BirdDog cameras are using, it says HX, I didn't turn on HX3, but when I did test this down here, I just added the BirdDog camera, the X1, and you can see that here it is. It just came up on 2 gigahertz. And if I go to my 5 gigahertz band and look what's happening there, those have just been chugging away, and actually something became easier and the data rate went down by half. And of course, the wired is still chugging away with the single connection to the full NDI source over here. Which routers are best for NDI and for streaming? Routers, not so much. Switches. Netgear makes an NDI switch, specifically the 4050 or something like that. What built-in technology names do I need to make sure that are included in a router for live streaming and NDI? I would just go for a gaming setup, which is what I did with the router that I have. With this one is I went with this ROG router, which is designed to handle a ton of data. And I don't have multiple full NDI sources to put on here. And that's going to kind of not be as much of an issue going forward, because HX3 is very good. HX3 is enabling lower data rates. HX3 is enabling good quality video at the lower data rate, and the speed is on par with full NDI. Full NDI is still there. It's still technically the fastest. Full NDI is going to be faster than HX2. HX2 is pretty efficient, but it's kind of lossy. It was like a stopgap in between 1 and 3. 1, they're phasing out, so don't buy anything with 1. There's hardly anything new made today that does 1. But like I showed with the Talent doesn't even understand full NDI, whereas the YOLOBOX does. So you're going to find, certain issues. And I feel that the Talent, actually, let me just try something. I wanted to try to see if I can add it to the Magewell Director Mini, which has had an update. And this is the view from my Director Mini is wireless, and I put it on 2 gig. So it looks like it is dropping a couple frames. Here you can see the PC on 2 gigahertz. You can see where I added the full NDI from the JVC camera, or the Bird Dog Flex. That's where I added it. So now that's coming into the Director Mini, and the Director Mini is able to decode full NDI without an issue. It's just that doing it over wireless, full NDI over wireless, not recommended. Over a wire, yes. Over wireless, not recommended. But like I said, if you are doing HX3 and HX2, your bit rates are much lower, and being wireless then is not as much of a issue as it could be if it were full NDI. Next question, using NDI with a single source audio mixer presents challenges for audio sync. Yes, it does. 2 wired NDI cameras, 2 wireless NDI cameras. The wired one have audio delay, wireless different audio delay. Yes, they all have different delay. But if you have an audio mixer, feed it into your wired NDI camera, because there's 2 things going on here. First, you have all these sources coming in. Even if they were all on HDMI, I'm guessing you're coming into a non-gen-locked video switcher. And without being gen-locked, without gen-locking the camera, then the switcher has to take each of those signals, rip it apart, rebuild it with an internal sync clock so that all the cameras are refreshing the frame at the same exact moment, so that you can cut between them cleanly, so that you can dissolve between them cleanly. They have to be refreshing the frame at the same time, not all over the place. So you're losing a frame or 2 there. NDI is telling the camera, okay, take a moment, compress the image, then send it to me across the network, and then I'm going to decompress it. And then it goes through that sync situation. So that's another delay of a frame or 2. Wireless or wired should not be very different. I would say less than a frame, but there still may be differences depending upon the wireless router you've got, how it's processing the different data. And so, yeah, what I would do is I would send your audio into the wired camera so that it's delayed along with the NDI compression, sending, decompression, and then it goes through the switcher, ripping it apart, syncing it up with all the sources, and then the audio matches the video. That's usually the best protocol. Or if your mixer has the ability to delay the audio, which a lot of mixers do. The Ostream Go, the Ostream Duet has a delay on it. vMix has got a delay. The TriCaster's got a delay. Even if you go to the Ultra, You see over here, NDI 1 delay. Not that I want to delay the NDI, but it has a built-in delay in here. So I can delay this. Wow, it's a lot. You know, and then how many milliseconds you have to think. If it's a 2-frame delay for the sync and a frame delay, so that's 30, 60, 90, it's about 100 milliseconds that I want to delay the audio coming in to match the video. If I was coming in via an analog source to match the delayed video. So you have to delay the audio to match the video, which is being delayed by all the different processes going on. Which PTZ camera is affordable and has optical zoom? PTZ Optics makes several fairly affordable cameras, different zoom lengths, HD or 4K, different other features. The Bird Dog X1 is available for $999. That's sort of the base. If you know, $1,000 is the base you're going to pay for a professional grade PTZ camera. And then it goes up from there. Oh, did you want 4K? That'll be more. Did you want longer zoom range? That'll be more. You know, those things add to the cost. Did you want a 30x Canon, you know, and then add the PTZ, you're going to be spending $3,000. So when you think $3,000 or $5,000, $1,000 does not seem so bad. So the barrel is this little thing. This is a travel router. This is a convenience item. This is not a professional tool. This is something for consumers to take with them or business travelers to take with them so that when they go to a hotel, they can plug the hotel in here, they can VPN back to the United States or back to their home office, and they could make sure that their communications are secure. They can have a little bit of wireless so they can connect their phone to this, their laptop to this, and multiple devices to this and not have to worry about it. This is not a streaming device. This is not, you know, while it may do things, while it may be okay, NDI is like driving a Formula One race car. This is not a Formula One router. LA12 says barrel is honestly rock solid for NDI HX265. There's a couple caveats there. We don't know how many, we don't know how far, we don't know wired or wireless, and 265 is the lowest bandwidth or the most efficient codec. So since the barrel doesn't actually have to decode it, this is the best way to do it with H.265 because you're making the smallest streams. But if somebody can't do H.265, like they got one of these, it's H.264, and they want to do 4 of them, so they're doing 4 times 15, this, you know, between 30, 60 megabits, solid streams back and forth, and then depending upon how many destinations they're going, I would never say something is honestly rock solid and then have somebody go and do a completely different setup than you with completely different needs on the barrel and have it not work. Because no two people are using the hardware the same exact way. And I mean, nothing against GL-iNet. I own one. So I think they're good products. I actually have at least 2 of them, if not 3, for different purposes. They're good at what they do, but NDI is a whole order of magnitude bigger ask all around. Processing data, wireless reception, wireless transmission, everything. And so I don't think the barrel is going to be reliably handling a lot of NDI. Can you control the traffic with VLANs? You can control the traffic, but it's still traffic. It's still passing through the router. It doesn't matter. That's like saying, can you put cones down the middle of the highway? Yes, but if you have 200 cars, they still all have to go down the highway. It doesn't matter if you put cones down the middle. You know, like if I wanted to, you know, one of the reasons I have separate 2.4 and 5 gigahertz networks is so that I can put different cameras on different wireless. That's sort of like the cones. And then you're using different parts of the chips to, okay, this part's receiving 5 gigahertz and putting it on the back plane. This one's receiving 2 gigahertz and putting it on the back plane. I'm not overwhelming one or the other of the transceivers. VLANs absolutely accumulate. VLANs add additional processing and overhead for the switch. So NDI does not use H.264. Some of it does. Full NDI does not. NDI HX1 does not. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it does not. HX2 is exclusively H.264. HX3 can use H.264 or H.265. So, of the 4 types of NDI, or 4 flavors of NDI, 2 of them do or can, 2 of them can't. Do we get 40 meters NDI Wi-Fi range? NDI uses standard Wi-Fi. It's not a particular flavor of Wi-Fi. So if your Wi-Fi can reliably transmit and be heard from 40 meters away, we're 120 feet, at full bandwidth, then yes. If it's too far and Wi-Fi naturally steps down the bandwidth to maintain communication, it will drop the speed. So, something maybe, you could do, 100 megabits. Well, you're going to do 50. You're going to do 25. You're going to do 11. Well, it'll do 11 reliably. It won't do 100. Wi-Fi steps down depending upon distance and what you're using. There's all sorts of directional antennas, beam forming, the quality of the router, and things like that. And remember, these things, if like, what's at the other end too? Do you have a camera that has omnidirectional antennas that are embedded somewhere in the body that you have no idea where they are? If I turn it this way, am I blocking the antennas? Are the antennas here or are they on the side? So if the antenna's on the side, then it's aiming this way more than it's aiming this way. So there's a whole lot going on. It's not as simple as, Wi-Fi works 40 meters. Nothing works as simple as that. Some people love to use manual IP addresses, which means if you have a switch, then you don't need DHCP and you don't even need a router. You could just connect your stuff up with a switch, a bunch of Ethernet cables. It all knows the number that it was talking to last time and they all re-find each other. Yay. The downside with that is you kind of have to know what you're doing in terms of IT. DHCP, I'm going to be upfront. I'm using DHCP for everything that I'm doing over here. It's all DHCP, both over Wi-Fi and LAN, wired. And they're finding each other, and when you do a search on the YOLOBOX or the Talent or a Duet or a TriCaster or a vMix, I don't think it's going to be any faster because it's still going to pull every address. It knows where that camera was. I mean, if you set up a show and it knows camera was at, 128, and then when you reboot the computer and come up, it's going to look for camera at 128. And if the camera has a manual IP address of 128, it's always going to show up at 128. So yes, they'll automatically look and find each other at the proper places. That's where that really comes into play. If you're taking down and rebuilding a setup and it's portable, manual DHCP or manual IP addresses really do come into play there, enabling you to build a show and have all the devices just repopulate in the show with ease. So, but for people who are setting up a church once, they find the stuff, here it is, okay, it might not be that much of an issue. Unify has announced their NDI profile. My concern is that I know of 3 Unify G2 switches that burned up while trying to run NDI. Hope their latest stuff is better. Yes, it's a challenge because the stream is relentless. It is a torrent of data. And once you start that thing going, did my camera? No, my camera didn't die. Once you start that thing going, it just keeps going and keeps going, and you start adding additional cameras. Oh, and you know what? I want to see that camera on my iPad. Oh, and you know what? Let's put it over there too. And you start, hey, can we send the program feed to 5 screens out in the lobby over NDI? Sure we can. And you just keep adding more because it's so convenient, and the network demand keeps increasing, and eventually you're slamming against the top of your network capability. Be thankful it's NDI and you're not doing the SMPTE 2110, because that starts here and then goes up, and it goes up very fast. But I want to use it for non-streaming setups too. Doesn't matter. NDI is your local area network. While there are protocols that allow NDI to extend between locations, NDI Bridge, Bird Dog Cloud, KiloView has something as well. There are options to bridge between two separate locations, two cities, two other places on the cloud, multiple places. By and large, it's your local area network, your LAN, whether it be wireless or wired. Like I have here, I have the router right over there is the router, and the autofocus is not working again. But yeah, it's literally right there. That way I was able to not have to use really long cables to connect to the Ultra, to the Talent, and to the Flex. Mevo versus OBSBot Tail Air for podcast recording. Does the Mevo have NDI? Yes, it does. It's part of my NDI show. And on the Mevo Starts, you don't have to pay extra. What hardware device or software brand to look at how much bandwidth or traffic is actively being used in a given network? Is there software that may record history for later viewing analysis? When I move my cursor over here, there's the traffic analyzer, and then down here, it's going to tell me what I'm doing wired. But here you can see I've got different screens for wired and wireless. It's not showing me what's going on all the different things. So is there something? Maybe there's a custom widget you can add to routers that would give you a consistent, heads up interface for all of it and then record that data over time. Can you add an NDI camera into the Mevo app? Mevo makes multiple apps. The Mevo camera app is designed to talk to one camera. The Mevo multicam app does have the availability for you to add NDI cameras if you pay for the subscription. If you don't pay for the subscription and just use the Mevo Multicam app free version, you don't get NDI. NDI versus HDMI transmitter receiver. Great question. Great question. And what this really comes down to is what your goal is. Whereas we were just talking about NDI from the camera, we don't know where the antennas are. We got little antennas here. We don't really know what the range is. And we also don't know what else is going on. So this might not be as reliable as we want it to be. Whereas if you go with an HDMI transmitter and receiver, they're going to have these dedicated antennas and they are going to take up a swath of bandwidth and have redundancy. Because some of them now, they transmit on two different frequencies at the same time, enabling so that if one of the frequencies gets blocked, the signal is still getting through. So you're going to be more reliable at a greater distance, at a higher quality and a higher bandwidth with the HDMI transmitter and receiver. They will only be sender to receiver. One sender, one receiver. Whereas NDI is one sender to anybody who wants it. And with one access point, I can have 3 cameras being received by 3 switchers. Do you know how many transmitters and receivers that would take? So NDI gives you the flexibility to use things in multiple ways. The HDMI transmitter and receiver, I feel, gives you the reliability between A and B. It's like running a wire, which is both an advantage and a disadvantage. NewTek makes an NDI camera. Look at that. It's an NDI camera. So this is my phone. And if I call up the little gear icon, I can choose between high quality and lower quality, basically what data rate, but NewTek didn't feel like, elaborating on that. And I can take this, and so here you go on the Ultra. Again, the Ultra is able to get it once I remember to hit the record button and not record. I don't know why they chose to use a record button interface on the, see that little red button? If I turn the red button off, now I'm transmitting, now I'm not transmitting. It's a transmit button, but it's made to look like a record button. I don't know why. So the Ultra down there at the bottom is able to get my phone just fine. And this is the NDI HX, but again, you look at, or this might be full NDI again, because here we go on the Talent. The Talent is not able to see my iPhone. Whereas if I go to the phone, close this, and of course you can't drives me nuts. The fact there's no buttons, it makes it so hard. NDI HX camera. Okay, here's my HX camera. Rotate it. And now I'm going to hit start streaming. You see, that looks a little bit more intuitive. It's not a record button. I'm going to add on the Ultra iPhone, and it says any camera. So it knows that app, and you can customize that in the app too. And then over here on my talent, I'm going to add NDI stream, NDI search, any camera. There it is. Save. I can call it up. And now, actually, I'll show you with this. Call it up here. I've got the same camera going to both sources. Let me tap that out of the way. And that's the magic of, again, NDI. It's on the network. So both of these are able to receive it at the same time. I could technically throw it over there if I wanted to too. That's the Director Mini that is doing the show. I could do it in all three places. I could have somebody on an iPad watching it like a director monitor. In here on the any camera, what camera do I want to use? Well, it says rear camera. I've got multiple rear cameras, but it doesn't seem to let me choose which rear camera. What camera resolution, how many frames a second, what my bit rate is, whether I'm using H.264 or H.265, which we already talked about. H.265 is more efficient, lower data rate requirements, makes it easier to use on lower end routers. And down here at the bottom, you could say, my audio is on or off. I can flip the camera. And this is just an example of, here, look, I've got cameras. And with that, I'm able to, utilize old phones as pretty decent, good cameras. Now, they don't have optical zooms, but, if they do, change the app so that I can change to the 3x or 5x zoom lens, that could be really useful. And then you can have a wide and a close as two phones from 3 years ago, 5 years ago. They're still going to be good. They're still going to deliver a good image. And you're able to use those over NDI with an app. Now, the Anycam app, as a paid app, it'll let me demo this for 10 minutes, but then it wants you to buy the app. So for the purposes of demoing this, I haven't bought the app. They didn't pay me to demo it. It is just an app that I found when I searched NDI in the App Store. But it's just showing you that your options for cameras is really wide, from professional cameras activating NDI, from cameras, the mid-level range that maybe come with NDI built in, from very unique little cameras that may not have an optical zoom, but still offer a lot of functionality and a battery, to point and shoot little cameras, phones. Your ability to leverage a lot of different kinds of cameras. Do they all have HDMI? I don't know. Do they all have SDI? No. But they all are on the network. And that's what NDI gives you, is the ability to do networked cameras. The NDI puts your video on a network, and that's where it really delivers the flexibility of allowing you, as the one reader pointed out, using different solutions in different places, the right tool for that particular job. But the thing in common was putting them all on NDI, and they're all coming into the switcher, and that makes it easy in terms of building out a show using NDI cameras. I have the Stream Tech channel. Help me grow it. Share a video. If you want to purchase some of these things, I have links down in the description. I would really appreciate it if you use the link to purchase something, because then I can make 50 cents. And if you want to reach out to me for consulting and or building or anything like that, you can use the contact form on the Stream for Us website, which is stream4.us. And I will look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks for watching.